Why we are so addicted to junk food. I remember one day, I must have been 8 or 9, and me and my brother were coming back from school, right? We coming back from school, and our mom drops us off at the supermarket. Always had this like routine that every single time we would come back from school, we would always go past this like supermarket, right? So me and my brother, we go inside the supermarket. You know, he buys chips and candy and me as well. But then I open the fridge, you know, like the supermarket like refrigerator that has all the like sodas and juices and all that. I open it and I find a Pepsi bottle and grab this Pepsi bottle, and I noticed that it says on the label that 12 cans or 12 bottles, sorry, equals one t-shirt. So Pepsi had like this thing that if you bring 12 Pepsi bottles, you get like a t-shirt, like a cool t-shirt with like the logo and all that, right? Go to my brother and I tell him like, look man, if we get like 12 bottles, we will have like this cool t-shirt and all that. And he was like so excited as well. So we kept that in mind, right? And I remember, like we go home, we shower, we do our thing, right? I don't really care about it. But then a few days keep passing on, few days, then a week, and every single time I go into the supermarket, I see the same Pepsi bottle with the same, 12 bottles equal one t-shirt, and I really want that t-shirt. Like I'm a little kid, right? So what I do is, I remember one night, I told my mom I want some money to go buy like some candy or chips or whatever. And I go to this supermarket and I bought 8 bottles of Pepsi. This is no joke. I bought 8 bottles and I bought them and I came back. I went home and I was just chugging and I just drank every single one of them. I drank 8 Pepsi bottles in one sitting. That was how addicted I was to junk food. I drank 8 Pepsi bottles. And I just felt so sick after that. I felt depressed. I felt like I hated myself. And it just sucked. But then I'm gonna be honest, like my brother bought another 4, and then we actually went to the store and we actually got the t-shirt, right? And it was a nice t-shirt. But I was so addicted to junk food. 8 bottles, and I remember I used to never ever be able to like eat my mom's cooking, always eating out, always eating like, processed food and all this like fried chicken and burgers and pizzas and chocolate and all this bullshit that just made me so depressed and made me hate my life. And not just me, millions and millions and millions of people are so addicted to junk food. All of us are addicted to junk food. Just look at the statistics. 1 in 3 people in the United States are morbidly obese. Just go down in the streets right now. Just walk down. Probably most people you will see are either very, very fat or very, very skinny, right? So we are so addicted to junk food and all this bad food. Now, why is this? Now, I want you to imagine something. Just imagine like me and you, 100, 200, 300,000 years ago, right? Imagine we're in like the caveman days, right? We live in like little tribes. You're married, right? You have like, or not married, like you have your wife, you have like kids and all that. And I have my wife and I have my kids. And me and you, we're like friends. Like we go and hunt out together. And me and you, we go out in like the wilderness and all this like grass and big trees and there's like wild animals, and we have our like long fucking spears, right? And we hunt for hours and hours and hours. And it's very, very hard, man. It's very, very hard. Like it's so hard for us to find any food. Especially things like sugar and fat and salt were exceptionally difficult to find. actually, come back to our families 4 times out of 5 empty-handed without any food because of just how hard it is to find food, especially things like sugar and fat and salt, right? So that was back in the day, right? Back in the caveman days. But 100,000 years later, now in 2025, and food, and especially junk food, is everywhere. We have tons and tons of billion-dollar fast food chains like McDonald's, KFC, Wendy's, like Five Guys, like all these massive fast food chains. And they're selling like fried chicken and burgers and like pizzas and like cheesecakes and all this like processed food, right? That we look now. Like, remember when I told you that sugar and fat and salt and all these things are exceptionally hard to find 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, in like the caveman sort of evolutionary days? These processed foods are full of sugars and fats and salts and meat and things that were so hard for us to find. Now, fair enough, I'm just gonna give a disclaimer here. Like, we humans, we have developed a lot from those days, from the days of like the hunter-gatherer, societies of like the caveman days. We've developed a lot from those days, right? But our brains haven't really developed that much because evolution takes like millions and millions of years. Yeah, I know, like we have like internet and cars and planes and homes and all these like massive things. But think about it, bro, like our brains, they haven't really changed that much. And that is why we are addicted to junk food, because like your caveman sort of like monkey evolutionary brain, right? It looks at processed food as like a treasure. So let me just explain this for you in a second here. So you have 2 parts in your brain. One part of your brain is your caveman monkey brain, which all it cares about is to survive and reproduce. Just like any organism on this earth, all it cares about is to survive and reproduce. And it will literally do anything for those 2 things. Eat, sleep, drink, and have sex. That's just all your caveman monkey brain just cares about. It just wants to eat, sleep, fuck and repeat, basically. That's all it cares about. All it cares about is to survive and reproduce. That's, your caveman brain. The other part of your brain is your more, logical, mature, healthy sort of part of your brain, which has morals, which has like values, which knows what is right and what is wrong, which it's very logical and it understands life and knows what is good and bad and makes decision, right? And makes like decisions. Like it's good at like problem solving and critical thinking and things like that. So you have a old part of your brain that just cares about survival and reproduction, and another part of your brain that just cares about the more logical and the more problem solving, moral value sort of part of your brain, right? So let's go back to the story for a second. When your caveman brain, right, when it sees all the junk food and like the fried chicken and the pizzas and the sugar and all these things, or caveman brain, right, which is the part of your brain that cares about survival and reproduction, it thinks like, oh my god, this is so scarce, this is so rare, I must eat as much as possible of this to survive. It's like a gold mine for like your caveman brain, right? So your caveman, survival brain, all it cares about is to eat as much as possible of this junk food because it was so rare and so hard to find back in the caveman days, 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago. So your caveman brain, it tells you, this is so scarce, you have to eat as much as possible of it. You eat so much of it, it spikes the shit out of your dopamine. It spikes your dopamine, the hormone that motivates you, right? That makes you motivated, to feel pleasure. That's dopamine. It spikes it very high. And because junk food is so low in nutrients, you've probably experienced this You eat more and more and more and more to feel full, but it's just impossible because junk food doesn't have nutrients, you know? Like you could, realistically, like just think about this. You could eat a chicken breast, rice and some vegetables, and that will be like around like 1,200 calories, and you will feel full. You will feel very full because, you know, chicken is very nutrient dense, and rice and vegetables, you will feel very full, you will feel very good, and you won't really want to eat after that, right? Because it has a lot of nutrients. You could also eat a Big Mac with fries and a Pepsi on the side, and what will happen is you will eat the Big Mac and the fries and the Pepsi, and you will want to eat more. Because your caveman brain, of course, wants to eat as much as possible of junk food because, like we said, because it spikes the hell out of your dopamine, and third of all, it's low in nutrients. So your body tries to eat more and more and more and more to feel full. And this is basically why we are addicted to junk food. It's basically three reasons. It's because of your evolutionary monkey brain. It wants as much as possible of it because it was very, very scarce, you know, back in the day, 100,000, 200,000 years ago, right? Second reason is because it spikes your dopamine very, very highly, your motivation, and that also, you know, goes in line with like the evolutionary side of your brain, because your caveman brain, basically, which is half of your brain, it's a big part of your brain. When it sees that, it spikes up your dopamine, so it makes you motivated to go and eat the junk food. So it's your evolutionary brain, it spikes your dopamine, and third of all, it's low in nutrients. And you might think, oh, it's low in nutrients, so I must eat less of it, but it's actually the opposite. Because it's less in nutrients, your body wants to get as much nutrients as possible to survive. So it tries and eats as much as possible of junk food to fulfill the needs of your body, right? This is basically why we're addicted to junk food. Evolutionarily reasons, dopamine, and low nutrients. Now I know I've been rambling on how junk food just destroys our lives and it just sucks and why we are so addicted to junk food. But the question here becomes, well, what is the solution? Well, how do we actually stop eating junk food? And the answer to this, I've already said. Remember when I told you that you have two parts of your brain? You have like a caveman, you know, evolutionarily, you know, monkey, you know, side of brain. And another side of your brain is the more logical, decision-making, you know, moral part of your brain, like the more intelligent part of your brain, right? Well, the way to actually stop junk food, the solution to all this, is to just use the part of your brain that is the more logical, decision-making, the more intelligent part of your brain, right? And you convince yourself that junk food is bad for me and healthy food is good for me. That's the solution, is you use the intelligent part of your brain and you convince yourself that junk food is bad and healthy food is good, right? Because right now, the thing is, your caveman part of your brain, the evolutionary part of your brain, it is convinced that junk food is good. That's the problem. It's convinced that junk food is actually good, it's healthy. That's what it thinks, because it wants to survive, and those were very, very scarce 100,000 years ago. But now, we eat these things in excess, which makes our health deteriorate very, very rapidly, right? So basically, your caveman brain is convinced that junk food is good and healthy food is bad. What you should do is use the more intelligent part of your brain and convince yourself that no, junk food is bad and healthy food is good, which is actually truth, which is actually the truth. And this is basically why we're addicted to junk food. It's basically just your evolution, dopamine, and low nutrient food. It's because junk food has no low nutrients. And the way to beat it is to shut off this caveman monkey part of your brain and use the more intelligent part of your brain and convince yourself that junk food is bad and healthy food is good. As always, bro, we're in this together and we're gonna make it. Promise you, we're gonna make it together. Peace, take care.